Good morning, good morning, good morning. Somebody asked if I was going to say that again. That was my favorite line for years here. Well, Pastor Harry and Tesha are gone, as Doug mentioned, so he asked me if I would preach in his stead, and so I am very happy and excited to do that. So I was thinking about what to preach on, and I've got 31 years worth of sermons. You think I would use one of those sermons, right? No. Something about preaching old sermons, I don't know. I've done it on occasion, but even then I sort of redo them. So this time, I was in the shower, and I do my best thinking in the shower. Anyone else? Huh? I don't sing in the shower. Maybe I should. I don't know. But anyways, I was thinking, and I just know when the Holy Spirit spoke to me. So he told me, and he gave me this message, and I've been working on it, and I am really excited to bring it to you. So I'm trusting that God is going to use it. Man, what is the world is going on here? I need bigger ears. This is what happens when you don't do this for a while. Okay, hopefully that'll stick there. All right. Well, let's pray. Father, thank you again for your word. Because everything that I'm going to say this morning are your words. They're not mine. I'm just your mouthpiece. So I don't know who needs to hear this message. I know that I need to hear this message. And I know you've already worked in my heart. And if no one gets anything out of it, I already have. And I know that as I preach this morning, I'm going to get more out of it. So I just pray that you'll give us attentive ears to hear whatever you may be saying, and that when we leave, we remember it and put it into practice. Ask this in your name. Amen. I'm going to try to actually think as I speak. It's hard to do. So I'm going to try to do the slides as we go along. So Beth loves to watch the Hallmark Channel. All right? She loves it. She watches on a regular basis. She's watched some of those movies at least 15 times and still loves them, okay? Even though she knows the plot word by word. In fact, every once in a while she'll be watching something, and I'll repeat one of the lines right before they say it, so you can tell who else watches them. Me. And there's some good movies there. So I love the Hallmark Channel. Beth does too. But the thing is that in between all the movies, there's something that interrupts them. Do you know what that is? What? Commercials. Lots and lots and lots of commercials. It's almost like watching an NFL game. One of these times, I swear, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start at the beginning, and I am going to count how many commercials there are for an NFL game. Okay. Of course, nowadays, if you record something, you can just go fast forward and never see a commercial. Anyways, one of the commercials that happens to be on the Hallmark Channel is from the ASPCA. And they feature a lot of animals. And those animals are mostly dogs. Okay? I think maybe I've seen a cat thrown in here or there. But they've been abused, they've been abandoned, and they also have been left to starve in some cases by their owners. So it's a heart-wrenching commercial. You look at those things and go, wow, what kind of person would do something like that to an innocent animal? I mean, it's just incredible. Well, fortunately, many people respond to the commercials, and I guess it's like $19 a month or something. You can sponsor an animal, or some people will send in a one-time donation. And it enables both the staff as well as the volunteers to treat these animals, to find homes for them, and make sure that they have proper accommodations, etc. Many others, they look at this commercial and they go to their local animal shelter, and they will adopt a pet that hasn't been adopted or abused or whatever. In fact, our neighbor, a couple doors down, and Janice knows them, the Merritts, they came around our neighborhood one day, and I looked and I saw this strange-looking dog. And the dog only had 3 feet. 3 paws, and so it was walking around. Reminds me of the joke about the 3-legged dog that came into the town in the Old West and wanted to see the sheriff. You know why? He was looking for the guy who shot his paw. I just threw that in for, I don't know why I threw it. My humor's not improved since I retired. It's going to the, there you go, okay. Anyways, if you own a pet, and many of you do, you know the bond that's between you and that particular pet, between that particular animal. In fact, we often don't think of them as animals anymore, or even pets. What are they? They're members of the family, and you can see that in this picture right here. Well, there's one occupation that I was thinking about that is similar to being a pet owner, but it takes it to another level. It takes it to another level because this particular occupation, their relationship with the animals are unparalleled. And that occupation is that of being a shepherd. Do you know that there are shepherds in the United States? So I did a little bit of Google search the other day, and there probably are some in Montana, but I did find out that there are some shepherds. This is an actual picture of a shepherd over in the outlying district of Boise, Idaho. So that is a lot of sheep. If you can't go to sleep, you count those sheep, and I'm guaranteed by the time you finish, you will be sound asleep, okay? So, but that's not the image that we think of. When we think of shepherds, especially because of the biblical imagery, we think of shepherds over in the Middle East. We think of Bedouin shepherds, and there still are shepherds in a lot of those places. You can see right here, they're mainly in Saudi Arabia, but they go up to, and I can't see that far, so Jordan, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, United Arab Republics, Oman, and Yemen. So quite an extensive thing. And the thing about it is that they pretty much still shepherd the same way that shepherds shepherded in the Bible. I mean, now they have rifles and they've got, other modern conveniences, but basically they are out in the desert, they're out in the wilderness with their flocks and with their herds of goats, just like in Bible times. So you're probably wondering, okay, that's great. We're going to talk about shepherds this morning. Why? Did you ask that? Were you wondering that? I know you were. Say yes. Okay. Anyways, I'm mentioning that because of what Jesus said. Oh, I'm sorry. There is an actual Bedouin shepherd over in the Middle East with some of his flock there. So, Jesus said in John 10:11, I am the good shepherd. It's one of 7 I am statements that Jesus made throughout the Gospel of John. And every one of those conveys a different role of Jesus. Now, when Jesus said that, when he said, I am the good shepherd, think back a couple thousand years ago. It was a very agrarian society. There was lots of shepherds, lots of flocks, lots of herds. And so when Jesus said, I am the good shepherd, they understood exactly what he was talking about. Nowadays, when Jesus says, I am the good shepherd, and I read that, it's a little fuzzy because I don't know any shepherds. I don't know anyone who is a shepherd, okay? That shepherding is an occupation that's what? A very small segment of our society. And so I think what's happened in my life, and I imagine maybe it's happened with you, we're not getting the full enrichment, the full image of what it means as Jesus as our good shepherd because we don't know a lot about shepherding. Now, there are a lot of shepherds that are named in the Bible. Some of you might be able to name them quickly, so I'm just going to show a few of these. Abel, the first shepherd. Abraham, Lot, Isaac, Jacob, David. There's more. I didn't list all of them. It's not a comprehensive list. Now, the problem is, again, that we have lost this imagery. So what I want to do today, this morning, is to look at what shepherding involves. In particular, what it means for Jesus as our good shepherd and what it would mean for each of us. That brings us to the central theme of the message. If you're following along in your sermon notes this morning, we can appreciate Jesus as the good shepherd. Not just the shepherd, he's the good shepherd. By looking at the following ways that he relates to us. I'll leave that up there for a second or two while you are still trying to fill in your blanks there. Okay, the first way, he knows us. One of the first things that happens when a child is born into this world, what is one of the first things, what first acts that a parent does? You're probably not following me here, but one of the first things is they give them a name. A name. Yeah, well, yeah, that's okay too, yep. They give them a name. And that name that they are given will be carried with them for the rest of their lives. It will be on their driver's license. It'll be on their passport. It'll be on all the official documents. They don't want to know your nickname. They want to know what your real name is. I was amazed a number of years ago to find out that 5 or 6 people from our church here, they had names, but that wasn't their real name. It was their middle name or something like, oh, really? After all these years, and found out that their given name was something different. Well, anyways, that name is given when? When the child is born, or nowadays, when's that name given? The gender reveal. All right? Whatever happens, blue and pink or whatever, and all of a sudden they've got the name already picked out, and now they know which name out of all those names they're going to give that child. It's the same way with shepherding. Now, I'm going out on a limb here and say, I don't think there's any tests that are given to the sheep in advance for gender revealing. Okay? I don't think they do that yet, but they might in the future. Anyways, so they have to wait until that lamb is born. And as soon as that lamb is born, one of the first things that happens, this shepherd is already bonding with this new lamb, and the first thing he or she does is give that lamb a name. Sometimes that name is part of a physical characteristic. So a lamb might be named Spotty, fluffy ears, short tail. I'm not sure what the name would be for that one. It could be Spotty. Who? Or did I say moo? Moo. Sometimes the name is given because of a geographical location. So if they were born near a town, maybe the name of that town or something would also be given to them. Sometimes they have a name, and over a period of time, the shepherd knows that name, but he gives them another name. So the name for that sheep might be Shy. Oh yeah, that's Shy over there. Or that one over there, that one's Wanderer. Or you can imagine this. Sometimes a shepherd looks at one and says, that's Stubborn over there. Okay. What we need to understand, again, is that giving the name at birth is the beginning of a lifelong relationship, a very intimate relationship with that sheep. And the sheep get to the point where they learn and recognize the shepherd's name. I was reading a story about some shepherds over in the Bedouin area there, and some gal had lost one of her sheep. Sometimes all flocks get together, and they don't all get separated the way they should. And she lost one of her sheep. It was gone for several months. She happened to be back, and there were some flocks there, and by the sound of her voice, that sheep came running from the other flock and all the way over to her flock. It knew the sound of her voice. So, in the same way, when we put our faith in Jesus, he becomes the shepherd of our souls. That's what we're told in 1 Peter 2:25. And as such, guess what? He knows our name. He knows our location. He knows where you are right now. And for those who aren't here, he knows where they're at too. He knows our personality. He knows all our quirks. And he knows even our thoughts. Psalm 139 talks about that. You perceive my thoughts from afar. Before a word is even on my tongue, you know it completely. Now, in thinking about this, I had a very interesting thought. I don't know whether you would agree with me on this or not, but here's what I was thinking. In Revelation 2:17, Jesus is addressing the different churches, the 7 churches. This is the church in Pergamum. And he says the following, verse 17. I will also give that person, he's talking to the person who conquers, I will give that person a white stone with a new what? Name written on it, known only to the one who receives it. I've read this thousands of times. All of a sudden this week, it just, a different thought hit me. So, does Jesus know the future? Okay. So he knows we're going to get a name. Do you think he already knows that name? Yeah. So my thought was, I wonder, yes, Jesus knows I'm Jim, but I wonder if when he thinks of me and when he talks about me in front of the angels, I wonder if he uses that new name that I'm going to get. Because you know what? It says, known only to the one who receives it. What's that talk about? That talks about intimacy. I have a name that no one else is going to know. Well, it has been revealed what my name is going to be. I shouldn't tell you, but my name is going to be Goldilocks. Because I'm going to have this big blonde afro. And I'm going to be just strutting through heaven. There goes Goldilocks. Yep. So I probably shouldn't have mentioned that, but yeah. Anyways, the point is, there's 8.3 billion people on this planet at this very moment, and yet Jesus, as our good shepherd, knows each and every one of our names. I could stop right there, and that's a great thought, but I'm not going to stop. Secondly, the second aspect of Jesus' role as our good shepherd is that he cares for us. Several realities of sheep we're going to be mentioning this morning. One of them is that sheep are just unable to take care of themselves. So it's funny because I've been thinking all these years when Jesus said, I'm a sheep, like, oh, that's good, warm, fuzzy, cuddly. Well, maybe in some aspects. In other aspects, it's not a compliment, okay? And this is one of those things where it's not a compliment. Because sheep are totally unable to take care of themselves. And some of you wives thought your husbands were bad. Beth just nodded. Left to themselves, sheep will overgraze. They will eat and eat and eat. They will destroy that pasture. They will eat the grass right down to the nubs, and there will be nothing growing there anymore. Since sheep like to eat a lot, sometimes they eat weeds. Sometimes they eat noxious weeds, poisonous weeds, and they get sick. Some even die from eating the wrong thing. So the shepherd's always got to be watching. Sometimes they overeat so much that they get trapped. They roll over on their back and they can't get up on their feet again. Can you imagine that? They are also prone to getting into trouble. They fall into fast-moving streams. They get caught in thickets and bushes. They also get stranded on a rocky ledge, and every once in a while they fall off and they die. There's also other issues. So the shepherd has to watch, and all of a sudden he sees, for whatever reason, that mother cannot nourish that little young lamb. Just doesn't have it within her. Or maybe a sheep has become infected with an illness, and if the shepherd doesn't step in right away and give some kind of cure, that's going to spread throughout the whole flock, maybe with disastrous results. Or a sheep might be abandoned by its mother. It might be bullied by the rest of the flock. So the shepherd has to constantly care for those sheep 24/7. It's the same way with us. Oh, I'm sorry. There's the photo of the sheep who is in distress, shall we say. It's the same way with us. As Christians, we are needy. The older I get, the more I realize how a needy person I am. When I was younger, I didn't think I was invincible, but I thought I was pretty well off. And the older I get, the more I realize I am needy. And our souls require 24/7 care from our good shepherd. I want to look at the 23rd Psalm, the first 3 verses here. And I want you to pay attention to the things that Jesus does here as our shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. This is the old King James Version. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Once again, in our fast-paced world, in our world which, what have you done for me lately, sometimes we can feel like we're alone. We can feel that we've been abandoned. We can feel that we're not worth anything. We can feel very insignificant, that no one else cares about us. I've been there at times. We all have, right? But that's not true. And I can say this, it's never true if you are a Christian, because you are one of Jesus' sheep. Whatever situation you find yourself in this morning, and again, with a congregation, we got a spectrum from those who are riding on the crest of the wave to those who are being drowned by one. So wherever you're at, Jesus knows your situation. And as your good shepherd, he cares about you. He's constantly looking out for you, physically, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. He alone is the source of our encouragement, our strength, and our life. This brings us to the third aspect of Jesus' role as our good shepherd. That is, he leads us. Here in the West, most of us, I'll just take a show of hands. How many of us have seen a cattle drive? Okay? Seen it on movies, or you've seen an actual one or whatever. I don't know if they've done it on Yellowstone. I haven't really seen that one before, but I can't imagine they haven't done it by now. So anyways, in a cattle drive, what happens? Where are the, what do you call it, ranch hands? Where are they? Cowboys, yeah. Cowpokes, cowboys. I should know the cowboys. Anyways, where are they? They're in back. They're driving the cattle in front of them. If a shepherd were trying to do the same thing with the flock and lead them to a new pasture and be behind them, I guess it'd be like herding cats. There'd be only, maybe out of 100, maybe only 2 sheep would find that pasture. The other 98 would be scattered all over the place. Because by nature, sheep are followers, they're not leaders. And so they need someone to lead them. So here's a shepherd there, and where's he at? He's in the front. I think he's on horseback here, but he's leading his sheep. He's the only person who's qualified to lead them. And sheep are so much a follower that if they have a bad shepherd, bad things will happen to them. So they need to have a good shepherd. They need to have a shepherd who knows the lay of the land. They need to have a shepherd who knows where the good pasture is. They need to have a shepherd that knows how to get them to that pasture. They need a shepherd who knows all the dangers, both geographical as well as predatory. That's the kind of shepherd that they need. Today, more than ever, there are a number of paths or roads that people can go down, especially our young people. They have their whole lives before them. They can go down the road to success. They can go down the road to wealth. They can go down the road to pleasure, to adventure, to power, whatever it might be. And as Christians, again, we are needy. I need daily to have the leading of my good shepherd so I know what decisions to make. The thing is that Jesus is already ahead of us, and he will lead us in the right path. That's good because I don't know. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. You ever made a decision, found out it was the wrong decision? Yep, we have. That's why I try to pray about everything. The stakes are high. We start out here, and you can end up over here in life, or you can end up over here. And it's vastly different. We need wisdom to make the choices on what career to pursue. Are we going to get married or not? Or who are we going to get married? As seniors, some of us have to make that decision again, right? Okay, are we going to get remarried? Our spouse has passed. Very important decision. We also need choices about major purchases, houses, apartments. Are we going to sell our house? Are we going to move into an apartment later on in life? And if so, where? Job changes, investments, health treatments, cancer treatments, all these kind of things, making out our will. All those things, we need to have the mind of Jesus on these things. At times such as this, it's comforting for us to know that Jesus is already ahead of us and he will lead us in the right path. Deuteronomy 31:8. The Lord himself goes before you. This is the Israelites. They're coming out of slavery and going to the promised land, but they have to go through the wilderness. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. That verse is about 3,500 years old, and yet it still applies to us. And I still derive comfort from that. Then we go to John 14:6. Jesus himself said, I am the way. I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. As the good shepherd, Jesus is out in front. He's the leader. He's already blazing the trail. He knows what lies ahead, and he is just asking us to follow. Fourthly, he protects us. We talked about the vulnerabilities of sheep. Not only can they not take care of themselves, sheep have no natural defense. We look at lions, we look at chameleons, we look at all these different animals, and they've all got some kind of defense mechanism to avoid being preyed upon. And sheep are just there. They're there for the taking, okay? So sheep are adapted in a God-given way to live in the wilderness, to live in the desert, but the same thing is that same place where they're adapted to live is full of dangers, all kinds of dangers. Combined with the fact that sheep are defenseless, that creates a huge problem for the shepherd. So a sheep can be taken off, a sheep can be bitten by a rattlesnake and die. Or maybe there's a little ewe and it gets a little bit separated, and an eagle can swoop right down and grab that ewe and just take it off and never be seen again. Then it's dark in the desert. I'm a city boy. It's never completely dark. The only time I was ever in the completely dark was down in Lewis and Clark Caverns, and we were in there and they turned the lights off, and I will tell you, it was so pitch black. I've never seen blackness. You can't see your hand in front of your face. They had it off for 15 seconds. I was about ready to scream, Mommy! So you can imagine the desert away from the lights. When it gets dark out, it is dark. And guess what happens when it's dark? All kinds of predators come to life. Predators such as hyenas, panthers, jackals, and wolves. And we find out here that we need the protection. Well, let me see. Did I have this wrong? That's what I was looking for right there. So there's a wolf. Wolves are particularly dangerous. And why is it? How do wolves like to hunt? In packs. So it's not just one wolf. And sometimes they're so cunning that they will sort of do something here while the other one circles around like an ambush. And when they attack in numbers. They can overwhelm a sheep, or maybe a number of sheep if the shepherd's not paying attention. Then there might be people who at night, humans, steal the sheep. They steal them maybe for food, or maybe they steal them to add them to their flock, because after all, it's all about the money. And it's the shepherd's job to be on the lookout and to be able to spot and anticipate every single one of these dangers. There was one Bedouin shepherd who was being interviewed, and he said, I've been bitten, stung, and attacked by everything that's out there. And he said, that's just part of the job. Can we just say that shepherding is not for cowards? It's not for the faint of heart. I mean, as I'm going through this, I'm going, I don't know if I have what it takes to be a shepherd of actual sheep. You got to give your life to it. You really do. Again, and I think I have to go back here. Oops, where am I at here? All right. The reality is, did I already do that one? Okay, you know what? I'm pressing the wrong button here. Oh, my goodness. I thought I was good at pressing buttons. Beth tells me I'm good at pressing buttons. Anyways, the reality is that we need the protection of Jesus every hour of every day of our lives. Again, this is an eye-opener. And on days when I'm doing good, I think, I'm okay, Lord. I don't need you. You're all right. I'll call you when I need you. But the reality is, I need him every day, every hour. We need physical protection. Doug and I share the same thing. Whenever we go someplace and we come back, we say, thank you, Lord, for getting us back safely. There are a number of crosses on these highways that you go, and somewhere someone did not make it to their destination. Somewhere someone didn't make it home. So I'm always thankful when I get back. We also need protection from illness, from disease, from violence, from crime, sometimes the weather. And we also need spiritual protection. We see this in 1 Peter 1:8. Okay, now let's go to it. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, who is the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. It doesn't say that in here, but I'm thinking he probably prowls around when it's dark, when we least expect it, when we can't see him at work. We also need protection from false teachers. Unfortunately, you can get on the internet, and I sort of, when someone becomes a new believer and they just get so excited, they start going on the internet, and I don't know what they're going to look at. I don't know if they're going to start looking at something from some cult, from someone who's just way out there or whatever. So I don't know, and I try to encourage them and discourage them. Okay, here's some things you ought to look at. And come to church, because I know that here you're going to receive the true gospel. Okay? So anyways, the Apostle Paul, near the end of his life, I know that after I leave, savage what? Wolves will come in among you and will not spare the flock. There are churches, and we may even know some, that someone came in and started some false teaching. It may have been a pastor, may have been an elder, may have been someone else, and just split the church. And people have left. And not only did they leave the church, more importantly, they left Jesus. As Christians, we can get worried about all these dangers. There's dangers everywhere, but we're not supposed to be. Why? Because Jesus is out there protecting us 24/7. He's looking out in advance, and he's looking to see what's going to be coming our way. He's already got a plan for us. Okay. And that brings us to the last one, and that is, he finds us. Maria, I know you like to watch little children. Still do. All of us, if we're parents, have watched children. I know the Masters family's got a crew. Pastor Harry has a crew. There are times when it's amazing. You've got only 2 or 3 kids, right? And they're all in the same place, and you're watching them. And the next thing you know, what happens? One's missing. Like, did they just vanish or what? Yeah. Well, no, someone hid behind a couch over there. Or someone somehow snuck into another room. Or someone has left the house, or maybe they've left the yard. Sounds like prison, doesn't it? Anyways, it happened so fast we didn't even notice it. And our heart skips a beat or two, and we find, okay, good. And then it's like, okay, I just have to have eyes in the back of my head and to keep watching these. What's the same way with sheep? Sheep are masters of going astray, of getting lost. How many sheep do you see there? 1. There's no other sheep in that picture. And it looks like that sheep has wandered off to places it probably shouldn't be. That's just my take on it. The reality is that a shepherd knows the names of all his sheep, but it's said that they count the sheep. As they're going out to pasture, he counts every single one of those sheep in the morning. So if you have 100 sheep, he'd better come up with 100. At night, when he brings them back, he has that little staff. They pass on the staff, and he counts them again. I better have 100 sheep. To drive this point home, I read a story about a 7-year-old kid, a Bedouin shepherd. He takes 30 sheep out to the pasture. And he's out there, and he's doing okay, but there's another shepherdess out there, and I don't know, for whatever reason, he's not paying attention. And he comes home at night, instead of 30 sheep, guess what he has? 29. You go to head. Oh, you're already at the head. 29. You know what his father said to him? He told him, go back out and don't come home until you have it. The sheep wandered back early the next morning. That 7-year-old boy was out there for 2 days looking for that sheep until he came back. And to his joy, he found out that all the sheep had returned. That's how serious shepherds take their sheep. This reminds me of Jesus' parable in Luke 15, 4 through 6. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep. Some of you will remember a hymn that we used to sing, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. And one of the stanzas there says this, prone to wander, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the one I love. As the Good Shepherd, Jesus knows all about our tendency to stray. Knows all about it. He knows that there are times when we forget to pray. There are times when we forget to read our Bibles, not just maybe a day or two, but when all of a sudden it's extended times when we haven't touched it. He knows when someone quits attending church and is not part of the fellowship, when they isolate themselves. He knows when we get caught up in all kinds of sins. He knows when our heart has grown cold toward him, even when we may not realize it ourselves. But you know what? Jesus knows exactly where we're at. Jesus doesn't need GPS. He knows. He knows exactly where to find us, and he will go there. And with his permission, or with our permission, he will pick us up and return us back to himself and return us back to fellowship. The fact is, we can never stray so far that Jesus doesn't know where we're at. I don't know if any of you can figure out exactly what that is. It's a familiar body of water nearby. What's that? Nope. Nope. Getting close. Over by Libby. Koocanusa. That is Lake Koocanusa. I didn't realize until I was doing some research. I mean, it's always been here since I've been here. We've been here, 34 years now, I guess. And so I knew it was there, but it was created from Libby Dam. So it's basically a reservoir. And Libby Dam was constructed in 1972. Some of you who are a little bit older may remember when there was no Lake Koocanusa, when there was no Libby Dam. Anyways, 90 miles long, stretches from northwest Montana into Canada there. I'm not sure if that's, I don't think it's Alberta. Is that Saskatchewan? That's it? Is it Alberta still? Okay. So it's in Alberta, and it's beautiful. Just pristine. You can boat there, you can fish there, you can swim there. Unfortunately, it also happens to be the scene of an occasional tragedy or so. And so, a week ago yesterday, a 63-year-old Alberta man was walking along there, and somehow, I don't have all the details, his dog got in the water, and his dog was in distress. So what did he do? Jumped in. He drowned. Ironically, his dog managed to swim to shore, and his dog survived. But he gave his life up to rescue that pet, that family member. The second part of John 10:11 says, I am the good shepherd. The second part is, the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. And when I say the sheep, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about me. He lays his life down for the sheep. Jesus died on the cross to pay the penalty for my sins, for your sins. He had no sin of his own, and he did it willingly. And like a sheep, he did it quietly. Lay down his life. Again, my purpose of this message is to hopefully bring back a little bit of the richness of this idea that Jesus is our good shepherd and what it really means. I hope it's an encouragement to you as you go this week. That would be my prayer. That Jesus is our good shepherd. He knows us. He cares for us. He leads us. He protects us. And he finds us. So this brings us to the sermon challenge. Every sermon you have, whether the pastor gives you a challenge or not, there's something you need to do with that sermon. So here is the challenge. To ponder, to think, to reflect on, to meditate on one of the ways that we just saw that Jesus relates to us as our good shepherd this week. So take that sermon notes, put it on your refrigerator, put it on your nightstand, put it in your car. So I think I'm going to do this week. I'm going to put it, when Beth's not with me, I'm going to put it on the seat right there. And I want to be thinking about it. And I've been thinking about it already. I've got advanced things going on. I've already been thinking about this for most of this week about this. Now, in order to maybe drive this home a little bit and to help you, so here's the staff that the church lovingly gave me with a lot of signatures on it 3 years ago. Shepherd staff. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of Jesus as the good shepherd. And Jesus is here right now. Do we believe that? Jesus is here right now. He's here and we can sense his presence. We can hear his voice. And there's a lot of things that are happening in our world right now. There's Iran and all these different things, and there's personal things that we have. But now that we're right here, we should be calm, cool, and collected. Why? Because Jesus, our good shepherd, is right here. That's just a great thought. And look at Psalm 23 again. So picture ourselves, we're in this field. Of course, we're sheep. So you got to go to that. So we're sheep. All kinds of luscious green grass. We can go where, and we just spread out. And we start eating to our heart's content. And maybe we need a little drink. And so we go over here, and here's a nice, soft, slow-going stream, and we can drink cool, clear water. And after we've done, there are some of us who have already eaten, we've already drank, and we're just sitting there on the ground, and, but we're fat and happy. Okay. We are just contented. Think about that image. And then think about this. Jesus comes by, and he takes one of us. He takes you or me, and he goes down, and he grabs us, and he brings us into his arms. And why does he do it? I don't know. There's a number of different reasons. Maybe he knows we're a little bit weak, and we just need a little rest. We need to be carried for a little bit. Maybe we're nervous. It could be a number of different things. But he says, you know what? This lamb needs a little bit of TLC. Or maybe it's the fact that Jesus has singled you out, or maybe he singled me out, and he says, you know what? I just want some one-on-one time with you. And so he scoops you up because he wants to feel the wool, your wool, on his chest. He wants to feel your heartbeat. And he wants you to feel his heartbeat. That is what it means for Jesus to be our good shepherd. That's why we can rest in his care. Father, I thank you for your word. I have read this statement many, many times. And until this week, I really didn't unlock all that there is there. And I'm sure that I haven't unlocked all of it. But Father, I thank you that you are my good shepherd. And for all these years that I've been a believer, that you have faithfully led me, cared for me, protected me, found me when I went off, all those things. And you've done the same for all those sitting here. So I pray that this week, that this imagery of you as our good shepherd, that we will realize when we leave this church that you are going before us. You have us. You are watching over us. You will take care of us. No matter what might happen, I just pray that this image of you as our good shepherd would be burned into our hearts, burned into our souls, and that it would result in joy, in thanksgiving, in peace in our lives. I ask this in your name. Amen.